And going into this week's SmackDown, one of the biggest selling points was the return of Roman Reigns after a 2-month break, but the Tribal Chief was somewhat outshined by the megastar LA Knight. Knight's Fastlane partner John Cena kicked things off to an enormous pop and was the right choice to start the season premiere, but he was interrupted by Reigns, Solo Sikoa, and Paul Heyman, with Reigns taking issue with Cena. John then said he was there to acknowledge Reigns in his impressive title run, and while the ever-so-humble Cena denied he was there to challenge Reigns, he slyly indicated that he knew somebody who was. Enter LA Knight, who earned a thunderous response from the fans, more proof, if it was needed, that WWE is doing right by pushing the megastar. Knight implored Reigns to declare himself the head of the table and Tribal Chief before speaking of his own rise in WWE, and not even a blindside shot by Jimmy Uso could derail the popular star. Knight fought Jimmy Uso off, and as the remaining Bloodline members left, Knight grabbed the mic and challenged Solo Sikoa to a match for later in the night. That match was kept for the main event, and after Jimmy Uso once again messed up for the Bloodline, Knight got the win, with the Bloodline's enforcer suffering a very rare defeat. The involvement of John Cena this week suggests that he'll remain in this storyline as an asset to Knight, and will no doubt help bolster Knight into a spot as a top-tier star in WWE. We also can't ignore the possibility of Cena wrestling Reigns for the title again at some point, which, depending on how Knight fares, could be for the undisputed WWE Universal title. In the end, though, it was Reigns who stood tall as he laid out Knight to close the show, adding further credence to the idea that Knight is a championship-worthy contender. Paul Heyman's delight for Reigns' return was glorious. The gray hair was dark again, prompting a Benjamin Button comparison from Corey Graves, and the elation on his face was priceless. Reigns wasn't done after SmackDown went off the air, however, as in fan-recorded footage, the head of the table can be seen taunting Knight even further. As an official attempted to help the battered Knight, Reigns looked annoyed at the crowd booing him before heading to the back with Heyman. It's clear that Knight versus Reigns is the plan for Crown Jewel, with Reigns even suggesting on SmackDown that it was only thanks to his absence that Knight has gotten over. He said, "Alright, I'm very proud of you. I get you a couple of months and they say your name now. But let's be honest here, over 1100 days as champ, I've done things that you would never imagine in this business. What makes you think you could ever stand in the ring with me? Honestly, I mean, who the hell do you think you are, standing in my ring right now?" As to whether Knight will be the one to dethrone Reigns, time will tell, but it's clear that WWE's megastar has caught the attention of the head of the Bloodline. Fans were excited to see Roman Reigns on this week's show in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but for as much as he was on TV, fans may not have noticed a major change to the champ's presentation. As expected, Reigns brought the undisputed WWE Universal Championship with him to SmackDown, but only the most eagle-eyed fans may have spotted that he didn't have his two other belts. Even after Reigns was presented with the newest belt in June, Reigns, or rather Paul Heyman, has been carrying around the WWE and Universal titles, but that didn't happen this week. It's been rumored that this is because the Blue Universal Championship was given by Reigns to the Rotunda family, as it was Bray Wyatt who introduced that specific design in late 2019. This week's SmackDown was the first time fans have seen Reigns since Wyatt's passing on August 24th, and whatever the reason is, expect just one title for Reigns moving forward. Ahead of SmackDown, it was known that Triple H would be on the show, but few could have expected the game to make not one, but 3 announcements. Triple H started off by revealing that Adam Pearce will now be the general manager of Monday Night Raw, and was set to announce SmackDown's GM before he was interrupted by Dominic Mysterio. Dirty Dom received a symphony of boos from the fans, which Triple H jokingly referenced, saying he didn't realize just how loud the hate for the Judgment Day member was. He said, "I always thought they were pumping in that noise. I didn't realize how loud it was in here." While some have claimed in the past that Dom's heat is piped in, that clearly isn't the case, and before Dominic could say too much, the game announced Nick Aldis as SmackDown's new GM. Fans were excited to see the 3-time former world champion, but it was strange that Aldis received no entrance and simply just appeared at ringside. After a handshake with Triple H, Aldis fought off Mysterio's interjections and the ensuing crowd displeasure to turn the conversation back to the third announcement that was in store. Fans were reminded that when Jey Uso was moved to Raw last month, SmackDown was promised a superstar in return, and that's when Kevin Owens was revealed to be the man in question. KO wasted no time in stunning Mysterio, putting an end to the segment and seemingly kicking off a new era for both Raw and SmackDown ahead of Survivor Series. So why did Raw and SmackDown get new GMs? There could be many reasons, but one major one could be to keep the brands different leading up to next month's Survivor Series. That PLE will take place November 25th, and it's possible that both managers could lead teams for a classic Survivor Series match or even have the bout inside of War Games. Regardless, with the introduction of new managers on both brands, it'll be interesting to see how WWE creates a feud between Raw and SmackDown leading up to the Survivor Series. By announcing GMs, Triple H destroyed a rule Vince McMahon made in 2018, which is when the chairman said that WWE would be doing away with GMs. The idea at the time was that the shows would be under the consolidated rule of the McMahon family, who would listen to the fans, though some fans will say they were never listened to. Of course, Owens' move to SmackDown marks the end of his partnership with Sami Zayn, and why exactly is WWE splitting up this popular tag team? Well, for one, it means WWE can avoid the cliche of a miscommunication causes a tag team to split and later feud, a storyline that has happened to countless teams over the years. Owens' arrival also helps elevate SmackDown's mid-card, which right now is dominated by the likes of Santos Escobar, Austin Theory, Grayson Waller, and Rey Mysterio, among others. Owens could definitely help elevate the division if Triple H keeps him in that role, and there's no shortage of talented names he could work with. Whether it's working with veterans like Bobby Lashley, Sheamus, and Carlito, or helping elevate the likes of Waller, Theory, or Karrion Kross, Kevin Owens can do a lot of good in this role. Perhaps, however, WWE has bigger plans for Owens, as he's proven to be a main event level talent, as seen in his Universal title run that was cut short by Vince McMahon's fondness for Goldberg. With Owens on SmackDown, the Blue brand's main event scene will get a significant boost. The 39-year-old joins AJ Styles, LA Knight, and Roman Reigns in the stacked lineup on the Blue brand. But how would you book Owens on SmackDown if you were in charge? Let us know your thoughts and your thoughts on this trade in the comments. Yesterday, CM Punk and Ace Steel were spotted in Orlando, the home of WWE's Performance Center, and fans quickly took this as a possible sign that Punk was working with the company. In an update, Fightful Select clarified that Punk was in Orlando for Universal Studios Halloween Horror Nights and had a Cage Fury Fighting Championship show to commentate on in Tampa. As for Steel, he now lives in Florida, and there was once talks of him opening an AEW training camp there, but that obviously isn't happening now. Despite previous reports, Punk and WWE are not in talks, and fans should learn not everything about Punk should be taken as a sign of a WWE comeback. In the hours before SmackDown, Cody Rhodes issued an open challenge for the undisputed WWE Tag Team titles, which was answered, albeit unsuccessfully, by Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. Before we get into the match, we have to bring up the fact that after WWE made a big deal of Kevin Owens coming to SmackDown in exchange for Jey Uso, Jey was competing on the Blue brand. It couldn't help but seem silly as Jey was working the show he quit just over 2 months ago, and you'd think someone would have pointed this out before SmackDown went live. As for the match, it was strong, had great heat, and featured some of the best work we've seen from Waller since he came to SmackDown, which was complemented well by Theory. The two stars never looked out of place, but the bigger story was what happened after the bout. Post-match, Cody Rhodes came face-to-face with Roman Reigns in their first confrontation since the post-WrestleMania 39 Raw, and it's been suggested that the two will lock horns again next year. The belief among many is that Rhodes will finish the story and dethrone the Tribal Chief, and this week's confrontation put Rhodes face-to-face with his biggest failure since returning to WWE. It was a poignant reminder that for all the success Cody is having, there is one hurdle still. But before things could escalate, Nick Aldis was on the scene to break things up. WWE has plans for Rhodes to headline WrestleMania 40 in a rematch against Reigns, but before then, the Tribal Chief is expected to defend against LA Knight at Crown Jewel. On SmackDown, the megastar confronted Reigns during the undisputed WWE Universal Champion's return to WWE after his hiatus, and expect that match to be made official for November 4th. Are you excited to see Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes too? Or would you rather see a different match headline WrestleMania 40? Sound off in the comments. It was in July that Elton Prince suffered a shoulder injury, but ever since then, he and Kit Wilson have exaggerated his injury, with Prince even using a wheelchair and at one point being in a coma. On SmackDown, Pretty Deadly made their in-ring return with a win over Butch and Ridge Holland, but during the match, Prince feigned injury to his knee, allowing Kit Wilson to capitalize. With Holland distracted with this injury, Wilson rolled up the Brit for the win, making this a successful outing for Pretty Deadly. For months, WWE fans have been wondering when Randy Orton will make his return, and after the Viper was recently spotted in the Performance Center, he could be back soon. Fightful Select reports that WWE and Orton are hoping to have the Viper back in time for next month's Survivor Series, in what'll be a comeback fans have been waiting a very long time for. Since signing with WWE, Jade Cargill has made a handful of appearances, and this week, the ex-AEW star was featured on SmackDown in a segment teasing her first feud. In the backstage segment, Nick Aldis told Charlotte Flair that she'll be facing Io Sky next week for the women's title, and just as a thrilled Flair went to leave, she met Jade Cargill. Flair said it was nice to see Jade, and Cargill called it a pleasure, to which Flair gave the foreboding response, "Oh, it will be." This interaction could lead to a massive rivalry, which could begin in earnest next week, with Jade costing Flair her title match with Io Sky. If so, WWE could build a feud leading into Jade's WWE in-ring debut at Survivor Series, and while this rivalry has yet to be made official, the potential tease on SmackDown has got fans excited. Do you think Charlotte is the right call for Jade's first WWE feud? And who do you think will emerge on top? Sound off in the comments. More from SmackDown, and after what feels like an eternity, Bayley won a match this week, defeating the LWO's Zelina Vega. After weeks of losses to the likes of Shotzi, Asuka, and Charlotte Flair, this was a win Bayley needed, but Damage Control would seek to do some damage after the match. Charlotte Flair interjected though, and her involvement hinted at a tag team match, pitting Flair and a partner against Bayley and Io Sky. Flair is still clearly on the hunt for Sky's title, and based on the Fastlane match which saw Flair tap out Asuka when the ref wasn't looking, Charlotte has a definite claim for a rematch. That match will come on the October 20th SmackDown, as booked by Nick Aldis, and Charlotte will be hoping to end Sky's reign and take another step towards breaking her father's record. After making his WWE TV return at Fastlane, fans were excited to see what Carlito would do on this week's SmackDown, but things didn't go quite as planned for the very cool superstar. During a backstage interview, Carlito was confronted by Bobby Lashley, and what started as a verbal back and forth ended in a beatdown, with the Street Profits helping their almighty ally. The LWO, alongside Adam Pearce, were seen checking on Carlito, and when Bayley made a big deal about the situation, this led to Pearce making her match with Zelina Vega for later in the show. It's clear that the LWO will be feuding with Lashley and the Profits going forward, and with reports that Odyssey Jones could soon join the heels, expect plenty more of this budding feud on WWE TV. So that was SmackDown, and the Build season premiere did not disappoint, with new feuds, stars, and rivalries being introduced that'll dominate the brand going forward. The arrival of Nick Aldis will be especially interesting given his history with Cody Rhodes, and perhaps Aldis will be the one to bring the American Nightmare and Roman Reigns back together. Kevin Owens returning to SmackDown is great if there is a creative plan for him, and if not, he'll be filling the Sheamus role as a veteran who can float around in programs without doing all that much. On a night where much was expected, WWE delivered and created buzz for the next few months of television. How it capitalizes on it will be the real question. In recent days, Tony Khan has had plenty to say on Twitter about WWE and the competition's ratings, but has had nothing to say about Juice Robinson's controversial segment on Dynamite. Many found the segment, which leaned into the anti-Semitic bullying MJF faced as a kid, to be in poor taste, especially considering the current state of international politics. On Twitter, a user named Travis Akers tagged Khan in a post quoting a TMZ article, calling the angle tasteless and woven in anti-Semitism, and added that AEW has lost him as a fan. Akers would follow up by revealing DMs from Khan, who was flippant in his response to Akers' comments about anti-Semitism on AEW TV, saying, "I don't think quote tweeting TMZ is doing much good." Akers would then tweet that behaving this way is not how Khan should respond to critiques of anti-Semitism on his product, and Akers asked Khan how often he slides into fans' DMs to mock their legitimate critique. In the DMs, Khan said he knows exactly who Akers is, and while Akers tweeted, "Let's keep talking," it appears the AEW president hasn't gotten back in touch. Akers shared a video from his phone proving the DMs are 100% real despite what some have said, and later tweeted that someone in Tony Khan's inner circle needs to intervene on Khan's behalf. Tony Khan has often drummed up controversy with his online comments, and this week has been no exception. And what did you make of this argument and Khan's response to this criticism? It was this week that WWE NXT handily defeated AEW Dynamite in the war for ratings, but next month, WWE and AEW will be going head-to-head once again. With Full Gear taking place on Saturday, November 18th, that week's collision has been moved to Friday, November 17th, meaning it'll compete directly with SmackDown. Given that WWE's least viewed show beat AEW's most viewed show this week, expect SmackDown to defeat Collision, and what are you hoping to see when the two shows go head-to-head? More from Tony Khan, and whether it was calling Triple H and Shawn Michaels or throwing shade at John Cena and The Undertaker, he's had plenty to say about WWE as of late. Taking to Twitter once more, Khan tweeted that it was the 1-year anniversary of Mayo Clinic staff saving his mom's life, but also used this tweet to take aim at WWE. Khan claimed that while he was at his mother's hospital bedside, AEW talent were contacting him, saying WWE wanted them to break their contracts, stating it's when business became personal. It was earlier this year that Khan alleged that WWE had tried to tamper with several AEW deals, but at the time, like this week, did not name any specific wrestlers. Khan followed up by tweeting that the same WWE avatar accounts that spam him every day are now turning their wrath to mom recovering from a near-death experience. Khan didn't hold back, saying he will always hate fans like these with all his soul, and it's worth stating that AEW has no approval procedure in place for Khan's tweets. Khan's comments have caught the attention of WWE, as the Wrestling Observer reports that Khan's tweets, including references to the Vince McMahon allegations, are being seen as akin to a declaration of war. As the top man in AEW, there's little anyone else can do to stop Tony Khan from acting this way, as he'll continue to say what he wants about WWE and AEW, for better or worse. Now, despite Dynamite's defeat to NXT this week, AEW still has a loyal fan base who believe it's just a matter of time before their company outperforms WWE. Speaking on the Click This podcast this week, though, Kevin Nash argued that AEW will never beat WWE and explained his reasoning why, saying, "They're so good at packages, like the Peacock thing they did on Cody. If they want to get you over, they can make it feel like a 30 for 30 ESPN special. They can almost make it feel like what this guy is doing is absolutely legitimate. They have that ability. To me, it's just like AEW is the Staples Center. It's a new arena and it's got all the bells and whistles, but all of a sudden WWE just decides we're going to do our shows in the Sphere. We're just going to do our shows in the Sphere now. That's just the way it is. It's always going to be that way. You're never going to compete with that, especially with 17 people in the staff." Do you agree with Nash that AEW simply can't beat WWE no matter how hard they try? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Logan Paul has said that when he finishes his boxing program with Dylan Dennis, he plans to be back in a WWE ring very soon, and his return could be far sooner than you'd think. On Twitter, Saudi advisor Turki Al-Shishk shared a promotional image for Crown Jewel featuring Paul alongside other top stars like Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, John Cena, and Cody Rhodes. Insider account BWE stated that Al-Shishk also runs the Entertainment Authority in Saudi Arabia, and with such a high-end figure sharing images teasing Paul for Crown Jewel, don't be too surprised if it happens. Tonight, MLW will host its Slaughterhouse event, but Davey Boy Smith won't be challenging for the MLW World title as advertised. The former superstar took to Instagram to reveal that he'd been taken to the hospital to have appendicitis surgery, adding that he was also suffering from diverticulitis, and after having part of his colon removed as well, we're wishing him the very best. In April, Brittany Abrahams fired a lawsuit alleging WWE had unfairly fired her after she took issue to some controversial and downright racist storylines being pitched in the writer's room. Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics now reports that the case has been voluntarily dismissed with prejudice, meaning it can't be tried again in the same court, giving Vince McMahon one less lawsuit to worry about. In 2011, Vladimir Kozlov was released from WWE, but now the former WWE Tag Team Champion has resurfaced in Impact Wrestling. Under real name Oleg Prudius, The ex-superstar helped Dirty Dango on this week's Impact on Access TV, and after previously working as a foreign language commentator, it'll be interesting to see what's next for him. And we're ending with Kota Ibushi, who has become the latest major name to ink a deal with AEW. Speaking to HD Subs, Ibushi confirmed that he has signed an AEW contract, and fans will be seeing much more of the inaugural IWGP World Heavyweight Champion going forward.